Welcome to Profound Frivolity. We're your hosts, Dustin,
Oren,
and Gray.
and in this podcast, we're going to be telling stories that you didn't know you wanted to hear.
So grab a drink,
And some good and plenty.
because this is Profound Frivolity.
Today we are hearing part 2 of How I Met Your Mother.
Yay!
About my mother, as in Gray's mother, how my dad met my mother. And yeah, good for you. You stayed in tune for part 2.
Yeah, so last week I told you about how I was in New Orleans, and I got from New Orleans with Big Bill. I got to Montana. In Montana, I ended up working for the Forest Service, burning down saving forests, and
A little bit of both.
a little bit of both. But before I got that that Forest Service job, I had to get trained for it. And the training was done way out in western Montana, and I was in Missoula, and I had no money, and I had no car. And so I hitchhiked.
Yeah.
This is not how I met your mother. I mean, I did meet your mother. I eventually met your mother, but
Yes.
I didn't hitchhike to western Montana to meet your mother. I went to western Montana to get my training so I could be in the Forest Service and eventually meet your mother.
Well, how did you get there?
Well, I hitchhiked.
Yes.
And so I literally just put like 2 days worth of clothes on my back, and I, like in a backpack, and I went out to the highway and I stuck out my thumb. And
Was hitchhiking, like, normal? Or was it like, oh, wow, a hitchhiker?
Or like normaler.
Normaler. Definitely normaler back then in the late 20th century.
Yeah.
And also normaler in Montana than it is around here.
Gotcha.
And so I don't know how normal it is in Montana now. Maybe just as normal as it ever was, because Montana changes slowly. Anyway, so I stuck my thumb out on the highway, and this nice guy picked me up, and he took me part of the way, and then he had to take a turn, so he dropped me off right there, and I stuck my thumb back out, and then this pickup truck kind of zooms past me and then stops and pulls over to the side of the road, and the guy who's driving just sort of motions for me to get in the bed of the truck.
Was that illegal back then to ride in the bed of the truck?
I have no idea. I didn't pay any attention to the laws. And I jumped into the bed of the truck. And I just, tapped on the truck, and they took off. And I had a long way to go, so I wasn't worried about like telling them exactly where I needed to stop or whatever until the window between the cab of the truck and the bed of the truck opened up. And this guy crawled out of, like, we're going down the road 80 miles an hour.
Gosh.
And this guy crawls out of the window between the cab into the bed.
So who's driving?
Oh, there's 3 of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's 3 of them. I can see them in there. Now there's 2 in there, and there's 1 back in the bed with me making nice. And he doesn't have any hair, and I don't have any hair.
Yeah.
I don't have any hair just because I don't have any hair. He doesn't have any hair because it's a political, ethnic statement. Yeah. He looks at me, and he rubs his head, and he goes, "We're skinheads, too!" Oh. I. And then he opens up the ice chest that he has in the bed of the truck. It's 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe 10. He opens up the ice chest and he's like, "You want a beer?" I have got crazies on my hand. They're probably high on methamphetamines. And the next thing he says is, "Watch the wind take my shirt off." And he leans backward. We're going 80 miles down the road. He leans backward, and sure enough, that 80 mile an hour wind takes his shirt, flops it over his head, off of his arms, and now he's standing up, like truck surfing,
Holding a beer
holding
without
a
a
beer,
shirt on.
no shirt. I'm like, actually, my stop is right up there. And so they drop me off at the next stop. I'm like, yeah, good luck.
Oh my gosh.
And they were headed all the way to Idaho. Which is where people like that live. Sorry if you're listening from Idaho, but then you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And
I was not ready for that. Woo.
And that's how I got my training. I got what's called a red card, which means you're allowed
Mm-hmm.
to work for the Forest Service fighting firefighters. And
Fighting firefighters?
Fighting firefighters, their competition.
Ed.
yeah, well, yes, if you listened to last week, you know that sometimes you have to fight the firefighters.
Yeah.
But you didn't fight the firefighter fighters.
He just fought.
I tried not to.
You fought fighting the firefighter fighters.
That's right.
Yeah.
I did successfully, by the way.
Yeah, with bugles and axes.
Yes, axes never got unsheathed, but
Bugles did.
yes, but I didn't get to join the Forest Service right away, even though I got my training, because there was some time before they hire you, like, you know, just processing and all that sort of thing. And in the meantime, a friend of mine back in Texas was getting married, and so I had to go to the wedding.
Yeah, you had to.
I had to. I was deeply involved in these people's lives.
Okay.
Some might say I was the reason why they got married.
Oh,
Yes, and so I had to go.
you had to.
I had to go, and so I was going to hitchhike. I was going to hitchhike from Montana to Texas to go to the wedding, and then back so I could go back to the Forest Service. And
You didn't have a car?
I did not have a car. And so the night before I was going to leave, there was a party at my house. Parties at my house a lot, and it wasn't really my house; it was Big Bill's house. I was just there, and
The basement house?
no. Actually, Big Bill and I went and got a place.
Oh.
And then the people at the basement house, they came over to our house for the parties. And Big Bill would throw. And and in the middle of the party, I just sort of announced to everybody, "Hey, I'm leaving in the morning. I'm going to go hitchhike to Texas." And everyone was like, "Don't do that, man. That's crazy." And
So what did he do? He hitchhiked to Texas.
I didn't. Instead, I had a. You guys don't know what this is. It's called a Discman.
A Discman.
It's a
Yeah.
CD player that's portable and
What's
you
this?
can
Oh, kind of like a
CDs.
Walkman.
like a Walkman,
But with CDs.
Yes, with
Yeah.
CDs. And
Wait, is a Walkman
Walkman's
tapes?
tapes.
Okay.
and
Yes. Educated.
and this guy that was at the party was like, "I've got a car up on my family's land that hasn't run in a couple of years. I mean, like, we've never started it in a couple of years, but like, you could take it to Texas." And I said, "Well, I'll trade you my Discman for your car. If you'll let me use that car all summer long, I'll give you my Discman. You can keep it." And he's like, "Deal." So the next day, he starts the car and he brings it down, and sure enough, it runs. And I get in the car and I drive to Texas. Go to the wedding. I'm driving back, and I pick up my own hitchhiker.
Huh.
Because I need gas money.
Yeah.
And the hitchhiker's like, "Hey!" And he's got a whole story of his own. But he's like, "Yeah, so gas money. Yeah, I don't have any. But I used to work in this town over, that's about, I don't know, 50 miles that way. And I used to work for a beekeeper up there. And I never got my last check. So why don't we just like make our way through that town and I get my last check and then we'll have some gas money." I'm like, "Awesome." So we make our way to that town. And he's like, "Yeah, so why don't you just wait right here
In the car.
in the car?" And I mean, there's only two things in this whole town.
Yeah.
There's the beekeeping place and there's a bar. And they're right across the street from each other. So I'm parked over there by the bar. He goes in to see the beekeeper. And then he comes out.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And I really can't recommend these guys enough. This is what we in the shed personally use. And when we record, we do it right off of Anchor. So when I get inside to edit, it's already there. It's amazing. So again, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
With all these jars of honey. And I'm like, no gas money, huh? He's like, no. Turns out my bar tab across the street was higher than my last check, and so my boss just gave my last check to the bar. And I still owe money, so we better get out of here. But he gave me this honey. Well, what are you going to do that? So, well, we can make honey sandwiches. And so we drove all the way back to Montana with a couple of loaves of bread and a couple of jars of honey, making honey sandwiches the whole way. Like, that's how we ate. And it turns out there's a technique for getting honey out of a jar so that you don't spill any. But it involves a demonstration. So I'm not going to do that now because you can't see it.
Yeah.
So he teased you there. He was going to give you this amazing secret of how to not spill honey.
Well, you scoop it out of the jar and then you start twisting the spoon. You quickly twist the spoon so it just twirls like that. And the honey stays right there on the spoon until you're ready to put it on your bread.
Nice.
That's how.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah. You've been educated again.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up getting back to Montana and getting into the Forest
With the honey
Service.
sandwiches.
With the honey sandwiches, but that is not where I met your mother.
No.
It's not in Montana. No, because it started to snow.
Oh, in Montana.
At the end of the summer, and I am not down with snow.
No.
So I left Montana. I stopped working for the Forest Service as soon as it started to snow.
Snow?
I'm out of here! I called my uncle, and I asked him if I could come work on his farm. Now, my uncle lives in Israel, and he has a goat and sheep farm.
My.
Yes, lots of goats, lots of sheep. They milk them, and they sell the milk, and they also make some cheese out of the milk. And
sell the cheese.
And they sell the cheese, and this is how they make a living.
Yeah.
Goat and sheep cheese. It's disgusting.
I've had goat cheese once and I didn't like it, but sheep cheese?
Yeah, also don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah. But so it's a big operation, though. It's a big operation.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're milking these goats by hand.
Yeah.
Right? You're not like reaching.
So,
under...
like, how many, like, goats and sheep were there?
There were about 300 milking does. So that is 300 female goats that are giving milk at any one time.
Oh my gosh.
Plus a few billy goats. And babies and stuff like that. And about 100 milking ewes, which is to say 100 female sheep that are milking at any one time. So you got 400 animals that you got to get into the milking parlor, which is
Parlor.
it's a milking. That's what they call it. It's a milking parlor. It's a giant machine, and you walk these animals up onto a platform, and then you stand down in this trench with part of the platform on one side and part of the platform on the other side, and you walk up and down, and you look back and forth, and the goats are like they're like udders
Yeah.
are right there at eye level, and you're down in the trench, and you like hook up these suction machines to their teats.
Yes. Word.
I knew your face would do that when I said that. You hook up the milking machine suction thingies up to their teats, and then you move on over to the next goat, and you put the machine on them, and then you make your way all the way around, and then you move them over, right? And so like that's how you milk the goats. But sometimes the goats are just sitting there, and your eyes are right there, right by their udders
Yeah.
and their buttholes.
Okay.
And I don't know if you ever seen a goat like turd,
Yeah.
or deer, like just like a deer, like the little butthole opens up,
Yeah.
and like little little Cocoa Puffs go. And you're on a farm. I mean, it's no big deal. It's just goat turds. And
Yeah.
it happens all the time, except for this one time. Evidently, this goat was sick, and I was right there, and that little butthole just opens up, and instead of it goes. And I got goat diarrhea in my eye.
Oh.
Why is this one more gross than the other one, where you literally talk about, like, rats' dead bodies and roaches crawling in your ear? And this is...
I mean, I don't know, diarrhea in your eye. It's pretty gross.
Yeah.
And, well, I had enough of farm life.
Yeah.
After I did that for about 9 months. And then I packed it up, and I moved to Austin, and I started going to church in Austin, and that is how I met your mother.
Mother meeting.
Mother meeting. That is, wow, a very eventful life.
The Gray's dad saga.
Yes. Though, actually, I remember one thing that you've told me before. When you were working, or the firefighting stuff, something to do with pull-ups and a fart.
Yes. Well, yes. That is not my story.
No.
It's not how I met your mother.
No.
But that is how some people met. So I had some friends.
Yeah.
In the Forest Service, Jeff and Becky.
Yeah.
Now Jeff and Becky didn't really know each other. They were just on the fire crew together, and part of the thing is when you're on the fire crew, like you have to stay in shape, you have to do exercises and stuff like that, PT, and so it was the workout of the day was pull-ups.
Yeah.
And now if you can't do a full pull-up, you get assistance. Right, so one of your fellow firefighters will kind of hold your knees and help lift while you're doing the pull up. Right, so you got a hold of their knees and your face is like right in their butt. I mean, just inches away while they're pulling up. And Jeff was assisting Becky. This was the first time they had ever met, and Jeff was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll hold your knees and put my face right next to your butt while you do this pull up," and she's straining to do a pull up, and then right while she's right in Jeff's face, and everybody heard it, and she was so embarrassed, and they got married 3 months later.
That's the best part. Oh my gosh.
Because that's as bad as it can get, right?
Yeah, like, it can't get any worse. We might as well get married.
Yep.
Yes. Can't get any worse. Might as well get married.
That's terrible. No. Yeah.
That's how I met your mother.
Well, not like that.
But yeah, from New Orleans to Montana to Israel to Austin, and there in Austin where I met your mother.
And then this podcast existed eventually because of that.
Because I existed. That is correct. Okay, well, that wraps up part 2. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it.
It was awesome. Thank you for being on here, by the way. That was really cool.
It's been my aspiration for a long, long time.
Nice.
To just come and bring whatever Dustin energy I can bring
All right.
to your pod.
We'll kick Dustin out more often then.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I'm not kidding.
I'm kidding. Even if Gray's not kidding.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.